Hello, I am Philosopher Caleb Luck, and today we will be playing the What If game. The rules are quite simple. Two people of contrasting viewpoints are given various scenarios, regardless of the time period that they lived. They are to predict the outcome of the aforementioned situation and give reasoning to back it up. Our contestants are as follows: Thomas Hobbes, an English philosopher who supported the idea of what is rational is moral, or what benefits you is moral. He wrote the piece Leviathan. Hobbes believed in absolute authority governments, approving of very, very heavy-handed social contracts. It was essentially you trade all of your freedom to the authorities and they will protect you. This applies to an absolute monarchy or a dictatorship. John Locke was quite the opposite. Another English philosopher who is regarded as the father of classical liberalism. He inspired almost all aspects of the United States government, influencing the Declaration of Independence and the Bill of Rights, as well as other various important documents. Scenario number 1. You see an old woman struggling to fit heavy luggage into the trunk of her car. If nobody was watching, what would any given human do in this situation? First, I will read Hobbes' viewpoint. Hobbes will be voiced by a slight English accent. Locke will have no accent. Hobbes. Is it not obvious? What is moral is what is in the best interests of the individual, contrary to what that fool Locke believes. You should mug the old useless hag, steal her car keys by force, pack up the hefty luggage, as it is probably of value, and drive off. Well, on second thought, you would back over her so nobody could seek revenge. What else is prudent? You see, morality is based upon rationalization. If it is in your benefit, you should go through with it. The old lady had no quarrel with you, this is true. She was not at fault. Human nature simply doesn't pity the weak. That's why a human can't be safe and free. It's why a very heavy social contract is necessary. Humans are simply too brutish to be unsupervised. Now please, give me a difficult scenario. I am the best for a reason. Here is Locke's response. I'm not surprised at this brute's response. It is quite typical of him to behave so poorly. I have read Leviathan, and I have found it the proper title for it would be garbage. What is this nonsense of what is rational is moral? Oh, it is rich indeed. If I had an infant and hungered for sustenance, Hobbes would suggest I eat it. That would be his moral. A normal man, even without government monarchy, would provide aid to this lady. Then they would make sure no fiend such as Hobbes would attack her, as it is her natural right to pursue happiness without being oppressed by barbarians. The next scenario is as follows. Two men are stranded on a desert island with no food and no water. How will they react? Hobbes. You make me laugh. This is even simpler than before. Think, what is in the best interests of the individual? Really mull this over for a moment. See, the first man would kill the second man and reserve the corpse for food. I myself would even douse it with salt water for the flavoring and make clothing out of his dried skin. All of these actions would benefit me, and I am indeed my top priority. Anyone would do the same thing with the exception of Locke. He would sit there and preach about a pathetically weak government that can't even enforce control over the people. Then his friend would get hungry. Here is Locke's response. About now, according to Hobbes, I should up and kill him. It would certainly make my life easier. The men would find debris and take turns building a raft. Using it, they could both attempt to escape. If that effort was fruitless, one would try to make a fire, and the other would fish. They would split the land evenly, as it is their right to property. Both would be chivalrous and kind, and they would both prosper. Why would anyone listen to Hobbes? He fled his own country in the face of a civil war instead of trying to console things, because it was in his benefit. His philosophy promotes cowardice and the death of peaceful civilization. All men are created free and equal and should not face infringement upon their rights via government. He simply believes we are all monsters meant to be ruled. I must pity him as much as I hate him. Two criminals are caught. Both face execution. If one rats out the other, they will live. If both rat out each other, then both die. If neither rat, neither die. What is the fate of these men? Hobbes. If one had his mouth stitched shut, only he would die. If not, both men would be hanged for revealing each other, most likely without hesitation. They thought it would be in their best interests, after all. Locke, undoubtedly, will say both would live because neither would talk. I have proof that this is incorrect. Question yourself. If you were quiet, are you positive that your friend would be? Would you be willing to risk that? Are you certain? If you say no, then you, sir, are mad or simply lying. Now, if people had a strong government that simply took away some of their freedom for protection, these criminals would not even committed the anarchy in the first place. I cannot stress more. Harsh social contracts are the way to operate. Men were made to be ordered, not to be purely free. Free men are the most dangerous. Liberty forces one to further their own agenda, as is moral in nature. Alas, what is moral for each person varies, and to be moral one must tread upon another's quote-unquote natural rights. Ugh. Locke. Hobbes sickens me. Yes, if both men would survive. In nature, a man is kind, equal, and honorable. Would you simply condemn your best friend because it would keep your own head in place? Could you live with yourself after that? As for a social contract, what good is a ruling body if it itself is the oppressor to the people? Why does a monarch have the right to steal others' freedoms? He does not. All men are created equal. That is as simple as it is. Lock out. I hope you enjoyed this evening's debate. Please join us next week for Quentin Tarantino versus Shakespeare, and have a nice evening.